Hello folks, my name's Mark. Welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be working on the cargo trailer. We're going to run a gas line for that propane stove I got, the Camp Chef Everest 2X. And so here is a hose that will connect to the stove. It has this special proprietary connector that connects to the stove and an appropriate regulator. So this is something that you can get from Camp Chef, and I think it was about 30 bucks, maybe a little bit more, I can't remember. Let me grab the other part and I'll show you what we're replacing. So the Camp Chef stove came with this regulator and connector meant to be used with a 1 pound canister, and I don't really plan on using 1 pound canisters, and I didn't like the way this thing stuck out the side of the stove and took up all my space. So I bought this different kind of hose and regulator to run to my little 5 pound propane tank that I bought. And I have this other hose that I was going to use to go with this propane to this hose to this regulator, but I won't be using that. I mean, I'll still use it, or I'll have it, but I probably won't be using it. I'm going to be using this one and another extension hose that's inside the trailer, and I'll show you that in a minute. But we're going to install this thing on the outside of my trailer. I have one installed already to do the power cords, and this one will be for the propane hose. So I've prepared some tools here. We've got a 3.5 inch hole saw and a drill, a little magnet and a pencil, and I'll show you what's going on over here. So I want to bring the propane hose out in this area, and I've penciled in some lines, but I wanted to show you this trick with these magnets that you can use them to find where the studs are, right? So I have a little pencil mark right there that shows me that's where the stud is, and then there's another stud over here. The skin is kind of pooched out, but it still works, you know what I mean? You can tell where the edges of the studs are. So anyway, I know that there's no structural framing in this general area, and so that's where I want to put the pass-through. Let me show you the other side where I have a pass-through already installed. All right, so there it is, and I generally just run power cords and the solar cables in and out through there. I don't mind having this. I don't think it's ever leaked for me. I have some butyl tape behind it, and it's of course screwed into some wood backing in the wall, and I cut a little piece of foam in there to help improve the insulation. A little bit of air still gets by, but I don't mind a little bit of air. We need air. So this works really good for me, and I'm gonna do another one on the other side. And here we are inside the trailer looking towards the front. And there's my Camp Chef stove. And down here is where I want the pass-throughs to come through, right in this side. Now, I have that one over there at a height. I think on this other side, I'm gonna come in a little bit higher. So instead of about centered, it's gonna come in a little bit higher because the hose that has the special connection is kind of short. And I really would like to get that regulator connection outside of the trailer, if that makes any sense. All right, after checking and double checking and thinking and deciding and thinking some more and waiting and then doing it and then waiting some more and thinking about it, now we can make a hole. It's a lot of thinking. I hope this is the right spot. That's a pilot hole. Let's get the hole saw now. All right, that's good. All right, this aluminum, I think this is the .030 1/100ths of an inch aluminum. It's kind of thick, so if you have thick aluminum, I mean, it's going to take a little bit to get through it. If you have a really nice, expensive hole saw, it'll probably go faster. But I just bought the cheap one from Harbor Freight. You know, it's good for a couple holes, and then you got to replace it. But anyway, it's time to go on the inside and drill out the other side of this hole. Goodness. All right. Now that drill bit might be hot. Be careful. All right, that's a nice fit. So the next thing that we need to do is hollow out the foam and put some backing in there, some solid wood between the inside plywood and this exterior aluminum skin. All right, so this is a 1-inch block, right, from a 1-inch piece of wood that I had previously ripped down on the table saw, and I trimmed it to 2 inches, and I need to hollow out the inside of the insulation for this block to fit in there. One here, and one here. These are the pre-drill holes for the screws. I didn't think about the screws, so I'll have to go to Home Depot and get some nice stainless steel screws, but that won't stop us from doing our job today. So I have a sharp chisel, and I'm just gonna chisel down in there to remove the foam. Yep. One hollow down, 2 to go. All right, I've hollowed out as best I can for these 3 blocks, and there's not a lot of room between the studs. I had to trim that piece a little bit on an angle in order to get enough in there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the inside and pre-drill and attach these blocks into the interior plywood. And then I'll come back out here and drill the hole again with the hole saw. So I put a couple of clamps in here to kind of squeeze the wall together so that these blocks of wood don't move while I'm drilling them from the inside. All right, to move the project along, I need to choose a route for the hose. Now I've got the hose connected to the stove and the end is sticking outside our hole, and I need to route this hose in an intelligent way. Now I've made a pencil line on the wood indicating when the stove is pushed back, that's where the hose is, and then when I pull the stove forward, I put a pencil line, and that's where the hose is when the stove is forward. So, you know, I don't want the hose to be in the way. I want it to be tucked out of the way, but I want it to move freely between the two spaces. So I'm hesitant to put it, you know, far away. Like I'd like to get it over here or something in order to minimize the amount of space here that's affected by the hose. You know, that's where I was gonna chop vegetables or do, you know, I do stuff right here. I put my plate right there. I don't know what I'm gonna do if this hose is in the way, other than deal with it. Maybe I could make a raised platform or something that hides the hose. I don't know. You know, I thought maybe I'd put in a slot that the hose could slide in the slot. You know, and I still could, but I don't know that that's going to be better or worse. I don't want stuff to fall through there. So, you know, the hose is pretty flexible. It's about 1/2 inch, but the fitting is about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm choosing a drill bit, a paddle bit right there, 1-inch paddle bit. That should be plenty of room for it to go through. But I need to decide where to drill the hole. I'm going to think about that for a few minutes before I do it. So I don't know, I feel like the stove is going to be pushed back more often than not, right? There's be two positions for this stove. One is pushed back, one is pulled forward when I use it. And occasionally I'll push it back just a little bit because the airflow to the vent is still pretty good if I need 2 inches of space right here. All right, so this hose is pretty flexible. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to depend on the hose that it can turn pretty sharp. And I have a hole already here for, it used to be a support for this water shelf. I'm going to drill that hole just a little bit this side so that it encompasses that other hole with the 1-inch bit. And then I'll feed it through. And if I need to make it notch a different direction, well, then that's something we can do. But maybe the 1-inch hole will be enough. And I think, you know, it'll work good when it's back. It'll go, you know, it won't take up a lot of space at all. The minimum amount of space when it's back here, and I assume that that's going to be a more common thing than it being up here. Because I use the stove and then I push it back because I like to have counter space. Yeah, it blew it out. Oh well. Maybe I can rasp it so that it looks nice. All right, I brought the hose inside so that I could play with it and the hole that I drilled. So I've got it connected there and it's obviously pushed back. And I can pull it back and forth, but I have to manipulate the hose, right, with one hand, like the hand that's holding the camera. So if I grab the hose and move the stove at the same time, I can do it, right? Otherwise I have to do it one thing at a time. So that's what it looks like when it's pulled forward. And same thing, it kind of have to manipulate it. So what I already know what I need to do. I need to make this hole bigger. It's 1 inch. It needs to be bigger, at least 1 1/4, 1 1/2 or something. And then it may need to be elongated in a particular direction. So I'm gonna have to work on that a little bit. And then once I feel like that is free enough, then we'll figure out the routing for this to go through this other shelf. So let me work on this hole for a little bit. All right, I've hacked that hole up, and I'm going to make that look better, but it does work. It does work better now. I'm gonna take out a little bit on this side and this side. I think it's wide enough this way, but I'm gonna Probably just put some sandpaper on a dowel and just ream it out until it looks nice. And that's going to take some while, and I'm not worried about doing that today. What I'm worried about is just kind of getting it roughed in. There's some big changes coming soon, and I want to be ready for what's coming. All right. So the next thing is deciding on a path to get down through this next level. And of course, our destination is there. So I'm going to think about that for a minute and come up with something. All right, the hose needs to be its longest when it's out here at the front of the shelf. And so I want slack to occur here when I push the stove back and more hose becomes slack. So I think I need to put my hole down about right here and send it through. And I'm going to do it fairly close to the wall because I don't want to take up a lot of extra space. Now I do have a cleat on the wall. I don't want to go in the cleat, so I've got to be 3/4 of an inch away from the wall at least. And I'm just going to use the 1-inch drill bit for that. That's a nicer hole. All right, I have the hose routed from the outside because it's not easy to put the fat end, the regulator in, through this hole. So you have to start from the outside with the small end and feed it through there and feed it through there and feed it through here and then connect it to your stove. And obviously I've made a mess, so I think I'm going to clean up. I'm going to vacuum real good and get things cleaned up, and then I'm going to go outside and I'm going to hook up the propane because I want to test out this stove. I haven't run it yet, so let's test it out, and I can fine-tune this routing at my leisure. What I want to do is I want it to be affixed to the wall right there. Not permanently. I want to be able to remove it easily. So I just want to, like a piece of wood to hold it down. Right? I'll show you when I get to it. But down here, I think that'll be fine. I don't think there's any reason to be concerned. Like I could try to put it over there, put a hook or something so that the hose will stay close to the wall. And I might do that, but I might not. It might not be necessary. But I just want to keep it tidy and close to the wall where it can stay close to the wall. But let's get it hooked up and give this stove a try. All right, here we are outside, and I figure that's that's the regulator that's necessary for that stove. Now I bought an extension hose, 6-footer, to go from here to wherever I'm going to put the tank. Which, for camping and stuff, I imagine I'll just stick it in the little spot right there and just let it sit there. So let's get this hooked up and then we'll test the stove. I've checked all the connections and they're tight. So let's go ahead and crack this valve for the first time ever. Guess that's it. Just opens right up. Pressure. And I think I can go ahead and prop this door. Just enough room in here. That's good. All right, let's find out, how do you work this thing? I've never used it before. Oh, that's loud, but effective, I guess. All right, let's make sure our vent's open all the way. That's putting off some heat. I can feel it. Go ahead and turn it on. That's a lot of BTUs. That's hotter than it used to be. Right, I gotta pay attention to things because there's more heat under here than there used to be. These knobs are kind of touchy, sensitive, you know. Well, this would be a very effective heat source. Yeah, it's real hot. Like, you don't want to get your hand too close to it, right? That's real hot. Well, it seems to be working. All right, I took the disc of foam from when I cut this hole and I notched it and I put it inside there, and I put some temporary screws in this thing to hold it for now. I'm going to finish that up probably tomorrow. And then I just turned the tank a little bit to take up some of this slack so that it wasn't touching the ground. All right, so the last and final thing that I need to do is install these stainless steel screws into this fixture, our pass-through. But we want to use a little bit of this butyl tape to waterproof it. So we'll go ahead and get that done and this installed, and then we'll look at the project. Now, some people would say to leave a gap in your butyl tape at the very bottom. So let's see what that looks like. All right, so we've got butyl tape all the way around the perimeter of this thing, except for at the very bottom screw. And if any moisture gets into this assembly somehow, at least it can drip out the bottom, and it has a very low chance of water going uphill and into the wall. So, you know, this, in my opinion, this is never going to leak. And I can't imagine a better way to do it. And I don't put any silicone or anything around the outside, just this butyl tape, and then screws firmly attached to your wall structure. Let's go get this installed. Don't want to over tighten them, just nice and snug. Over time, that butyl tape will ooze out, and you might just take a regular screwdriver and tighten them up. But that's done. We're done. All right, here's what the outside looks like. You know, I've put on these little, they're what is that electric cabling? The conduit, electric conduit, single hole straps that I've bent to just holds the hose, right? Keeps it up off the ground, keeps it tidy. During travel, it'll be removed. All of that will come out during travel and be put away and then assembled for camping. Let's go inside. It barely clears, but that's was to be expected. And then on the inside, I've done the same thing. So you take the hose and you put it over that and through the hole. And then up here, we come through the wood and then through there, crisscross, and then up through this other hole and connect to our stove. But you've seen that part. So, I don't know. I mean, it's not perfect. I guess moving the stove around is probably a liability. You know, I guess that's why a lot of campers have a stove in a fixed location and you can just pipe your thing to it and it stays in one place. So having the stove move out and back and forth and stuff added a level of complexity, which maybe some people wouldn't want. But I didn't know what else to do, so that's what I ended up with. All right, so that's the end of this video. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.